I want to spend a few minutes and talk about acute stress disorder some more. So you can see in the Prezi presentation for criteria B, there were 5 categories and I just listed them. There's intrusion symptoms, negative mood, dissociative symptoms, avoidance symptoms, and arousal symptoms. And so I'm going to go just a little bit more in depth on each of these because there's a lot to them. And for people to be diagnosed with acute stress disorder or to go on and be diagnosed for PTSD, you have to understand a little bit more in depth of what these categories are. Regarding intrusion symptoms, people have to experience recurrent, involuntary, and intrusive distressing memories of the traumatic event. Keep in mind for children, this behavior might come out differently. So with children, they might display trauma-based repetitive play. So I had one child that I was working with who did demonstrate this. And when I would go to visit her or observe her when she was playing with her mother, she would often take her dolls or other toys and she would punish them or put them in jail. So she would take her dolls, she would spank them, she would throw them around the room, play very harshly with them. She would tell them they're in time out or that they're going to jail and that they've been bad. And this was her standard play with her dolls. I hardly ever saw her play nicely with her dolls, really interact in a pro-social manner with her dolls. Along with intrusion symptoms, people can experience recurrent distressing dreams that are related to the event. They can also have dissociative reactions or flashbacks, and you often see this with people with PTSD. So with dissociative reactions, this is when the person believes that they're right back there in that traumatic event and reliving that experience. They might have a complete loss of awareness of their present surroundings. They can also have intense, prolonged psychological distress, and they can also have marked physiological reactions in response to internal as well as external cues that resemble that traumatic event. So they might pick up on a smell, on a sound, on a voice, and it might throw them right back into that event. Another symptom involves negative mood. So this is persistent inability to experience positive emotions. People have an inability to experience happiness, to feel satisfaction, to feel love towards others. They can have this complete loss of pleasure in activities that they used to really be passionate about and they love to do. People can feel complete numbness or a sense of emptiness. Similar to intrusive symptoms, people can also experience dissociative symptoms. So this is when a person, again, has an altered sense of reality. They feel like they're separated from their reality. People can have out-of-body experiences. They talk about sensing oneself from another person's perspective. They might feel like they're in this complete daze, that time is slowing down, and they might have a complete blackout experience. People can have an inability to remember important aspects of the traumatic event, and then this can carry over into their daily life. So some people will talk about how they have complete periods of time throughout the day that it just blacks out for them and they don't remember what they did or what happened. People can also experience avoidance symptoms. So people will go to an extreme end to avoid distressing memories, thoughts, feelings about the traumatic event. They might avoid certain people. They might avoid certain locations that remind them of the event. People might make all effort to avoid all external reminders. So people, places, conversations, activities, objects, situations that may remind them of the event. And then finally, there's arousal symptoms. So with this, people might experience sleep disturbance, so have insomnia or chronic insomnia. And with that, people may not be sleeping at all to the point that they put themselves in a psychosis. People can also become highly irritable. They can become very angry, they can become very rageful, and they might appear to snap just like that over the smallest thing. People can become very sensitive to potential threats or overreact to what they see as potential threats. People also can become very hypervigilant. So this is when they have this heightened startle response. They can become very jumpy over the smallest noise, such as the telephone ringing. So for instance, a brother came home from Afghanistan, and he and his sister were out running, and the sister was running along the shoulder of the road, and she hit some gravel. The brother heard the gravel, and he instantly thought that a bomb was going off. So he grabbed his sister, bear hugged her, and threw themselves into the ditch, and he covered her. So that would just be an example of that heightened startle response, the hypervigilance, and overreacting to the smallest sound. Finally, students often confuse acute stress disorder with PTSD. So keep in mind the key word acute and acute stress disorder. So with this condition, people should not be diagnosed until about 3 days to a week after the traumatic event, and then this goes on for about 3 weeks to a month afterwards. And then if people continue to have symptoms or the symptoms become more severe, then people will be diagnosed with PTSD. Over half of all people who develop acute stress disorder go on to develop the chronic symptoms of PTSD. And with PTSD, people can experience these for months. They can experience these symptoms for years. Also, it's interesting to note with the development of PTSD, some people do not develop symptoms until months or even years after the event.